All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Freddy's Ready podcast. Been a minute. I will not lie. It's been a long, long time. But I have put a lot of effort into this new one, so hopefully it makes up for the lack of activity that I posted. But you know what? We're gonna be back into it. I just finished up school. We're gonna be all right. We're gonna be cool. We're gonna be chilling. So should be an overall good experience. All right. So I kind of want to talk about a couple things that we're literally going to only talk about three specific topics, which is going to be the MLB, boxing, and the UFC. I have a lot written down for all three of these topics. That's why I decided to only pick three, especially because football's done, basketball's done. In basketball, a lot of trades are going on right now. For example, today the Mike Brown signing to the Knicks. Yesterday, Miles Turner leaving to the Bucks. You had Damian Lillard getting waived and all that. So I'll probably have my opinions on that a little later. But right now, I really prepped on this one. And I'm really just going to go based on that and see how we do going forward. But, yeah, I really want to dive into some baseball because, obviously, like I mentioned previously, that's my go-to sport. I think it would be baseball. I think I'm more comfortable speaking about baseball rather than other sports. Boxing, the UFC, I love that one as well. Those are two of the other ones that I really dive into and really invest a lot of time watching. But yeah, let's just get into some MLB. Talk about some cool stuff. I want to go into the American League. The American League's been kind of shaky. Other than the Astros kind of rising to like a top championship contender level team, it's kind of been ran by the Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Tigers have really established themselves as the favorite to come out of the AL, as they have the second best record in MLB right now, currently standing, I believe, a game or two behind the Dodgers. But when you look at this team from down, I mentioned it on previous episodes. I mentioned that they were really, really good in many aspects of the game. Most importantly, which has really showed this whole season, is their pitching. Their pitching is top tier. They have a rotation that is as dominant as I've seen in a while. And it's behind that big horse of Tyler Skubal, who's the favorite to win the Cy Young Award this year again. Who literally put up, I believe it was, it was 8 strikeouts in like 3 innings the other day or some crazy stuff like that, where he got the first guy out and then the rest were just strikeouts. But the main thing that I think really set them apart, and I know for a fact set them apart, was their hitting. I mean, you had guys like Riley Green, Gleyber Torres, and Javi Baez who are just contributing to the lineup at a higher level than they had before. And the resurgence of Javi Baez has been really fun to watch. You're getting a guy who was known for a crazy power bat, a guy who wasn't really known for so much more of his contact, but more of his power, and flashy defense at shortstop. Everything really came to fruition and really became popular when it was in the World Baseball Classic of 2016? Or was it 20? I forget, but the one in LA. That's when Yadier Molina threw the guy from the Netherlands out at second base, and you had Baez who made it a tag, who wasn't even looking at the runner, just caught the ball and tagged him without even looking, just already celebrating. That's kind of how Javi Baez plays. He's a very flashy player. He has a nickname El Mago for a reason. I mean, it stands for magician, so you would kind of understand that he's crazy like that. But I mean, he's really resurged his career. He's batting. Let me double check. He's batting, I believe, like a 200 and in the 70s, I want to say, and playing top tier defense. He's batting 285 with 9 bombs, 38 RBIs. 38 RBIs and 68 hits. Way better than the last time. Last year the last couple years he's been horrendous. He's been really struggling at the plate, especially when Lindor made that transition to New York, where Baez was at. They just weren't clicking at all, and Baez really struggled offensively. Defensively, he's always kind of been sound, but I think lately that transition to center field really was kind of a kickstart for a guy like him. But other than that, I mean, those guys, Riley Green's the star of that team, the outfielder. He's, in my opinion, an all-star starter. And then you have Gleyber Torres, who I think the Yankees, I can't really understand their thought process behind why would you let him go. When you have to take a lot of things into consideration. He was probably the best second baseman in all of the American League. I think he surpassed He surpassed Jose Altuve. He surpassed the American League. Chisholm's not a second baseman. I would say pretty much, yeah. I wouldn't put anybody else up there with him. when it comes down to second basemen, and you let him walk to a team that everybody knew had pitching and was on the rise. The Tigers, after that All-Star break last year, just went crazy and made a playoff run. Not only did they knocked out the Astros, they played against Cleveland, who had a really good pitching team, really good bullpen, one of the best, probably have the best bullpen in the league currently, I think, too. But they took them to 5 games. They obviously what set them apart was Screwball got rocked in that fifth game, but you let a guy who is a good offensive bat and a good defensive glove walk to a team that needed that and was already at that level of the Yankees. The Yankees, sure, they were a powerhouse last year. They were the 1 seed or the 2 seed. They were 2 seed behind the Guardians. I'm sorry, they were the 1 seed. But you can't just give away players. Who did they get in exchange? Bellinger, Goldschmidt was having a great year. But if you would have had that guy Torres there, that your team is complete. Your team is a lot more stable in the lineup. Your lineup's a lot more stable. Players feel more secure. It's just an overall better experience for the Yankees. But instead, they want to let him walk. You go to the Tigers. Now he's currently smashing over there. And your Tigers are the number 1 team, and they're the number 1 team by a good amount. I mean, they're at 54 wins, 53 wins, 31 losses, and like some crazy record like that. They're 2 games or 1 game behind the Dodgers. So, and for a while they were above everybody. But I mean, obviously the Dodgers really coming back, getting a little bit healthy. Really, we'll talk about this a little later, but they started really making them a name for themselves and really showcasing why they're the number 1 team in the American League. But like I mentioned earlier, the Astros, who are a team who's really making themselves known and putting a name out there, who, yes, they have a pedigree and a championship pedigree, a championship type organization because of those years from 2017. We're not going to mention the cheating, 2017 all the way to, I want to say, 2022, 2023, where they were in the hunt. And it wasn't until last year where they kind of really took that big hit with to get knocked down in the first round to the Tigers and all. But obviously, that's not the same team. They don't have Correa. They don't have Michael Brantley, who's at that level. They don't have Bregman, who walked. George Springer walked. You didn't have all those guys that you had in 2017. You didn't have that Garrett Cole. You didn't have that Justin Verlander, who was at that level. You didn't have that bullpen, which I do think they have a really good bullpen now. But they didn't have what they had in 2017, 2018, 2019, and on and so forth. But many people would have thought they had an average season. I was one of them. I thought the Astros weren't going to have that good of a season, specifically because of the amount that they lost, the amount that they didn't really gain. They didn't really go out and sign anybody. They let Bregman walk. But they're only 3 games back of the best record in baseball. The rotation's lethal. I mean, there's around... And lethal is a strong word. Lethal is not just a word that you throw around. Lethal is a pretty strong word. I would only consider 4 teams to be lethal. I want to say the rotations are 3. Dodgers when healthy, but you can't even say them right now because they're not healthy. And it's a big if. Astros, Tigers, not Padres. The Mets have been pretty good. Where they have top 5 lowest ERA in pitching baseball in regards to the starting pitching. And I wouldn't. And Seattle Mariners always have a good rotation, although they have dealt with injuries to Logan Gilbert and all. But that's a topic for a different time. But their ERA is sitting at 3.40 combined as a starting rotation, which is the 3rd best in baseball. Their WHIP's at 1.15, which for those that don't know what WHIP is, it's walks, hits by innings pitched. So 1 literally means that's how many base runners are allowing in an inning, on average. A 1, right? That's crazy to think about. And then you look at that the fact that they have a great bullpen to support them, and really what's led this offensive team to a better program and better organization, and really a staple for somebody that goes to the postseason is the fact that they have that rotation that's pushing with the 2 dogs up ahead, which is Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez. Who Hunter Brown's 8-3, leads the league in ERA at 1.74, 0.89 WHIP, which is outrageous. For those that don't know, if I'm going off right, a solid WHIP is from around 110 to, I want to say, 140 or 150. Anything lower, you're considered really well. He's at 0.83. That means he's not walking or hitting guys. Or guys aren't getting hits off to him. That's literally what the numbers show. And if you look at him, his stuff's absolutely filthy. Teams are hitting 175 off this guy. And then you add the fact that he has another guy behind him in Framber Valdez, who's 8-4, 288 ERA, which isn't shabby. I'm sorry. And then a solid ERA at 113. That's still solid. That's still under the league average, and that's still under the rotation average. So both those guys are really carrying that whip, in that whips category, especially in that ERA and that wins. They're both recording wins. They're not losing games. So that's the main thing. And a lot of things, a big misconception, I think, and I know, and I hear a lot throughout the league, is that wins don't matter. All pitching wins don't matter because ERA, or it matters. I wouldn't say it's the number one thing on the criteria list for a Cy Young award anymore, because you're looking at guys like Paul Skeens who are currently favored, or guys just like Paul Skeens, guys like DeGrom back a couple years ago. I can't pinpoint exactly what year, but where they had a 1 ERA, whatever. And they're not winning, which sucks, but there is games where they could win. They had chances and they blow it, and that's part of the game. So although I do think wins have degraded, really, in the criteria, but I do still think they're important. You can't be 4-12 and win a Cy Young award, in my opinion. I mean, you can't tell me in all those 16 games you weren't winning one time. You didn't leave your team in the best position to win. And those teams have really kind of separated themselves from the American League. The Yankees have been balling, and obviously they took a big hit in the spring training before the season started when Garrett Cole went out. Issues. Stanton just came back recently, but I mean, the Yankees are just powering through with Aaron Judge. You look at it, Aaron Judge is absolutely smashing the ball. He's an MVP candidate, as well as him and Cal Raleigh, who's part of the Mariners. But that's a topic that I really want to get into in a little bit. But the Rays are closing the gap on them. They're only a game and a half back. And then you look at the Red Sox, who are just having a terrible year. They're in last. My big thing with the Red Sox, which I'll get into in a little bit, I kind of want to get into the Yankees. The Yankees kind of doing average, but they're still in first place, literally led by Judge and Goldschmidt, which I think really propelled them, and that's what Judge needed, because he had the Juan Soto last year, and how is he going to function without him? We all know how Soto started off really slow, how he didn't have a guy like Judge behind him, where he did have Pete Alonso start off really hot, but he didn't have that one feared guy like Judge, where you get guys like Pete Alonso, and as a pitcher, you're like, oh, okay, they're hot. But he's not a guy who's won an MVP 2 years already, and he's likely to win a third one. That's the difference. That's the level of fear that kind of imposes. Not necessarily fear, but respect. And Juan Soto needed that. He lacked it, and now he's starting to kind of heat up a little bit with the Mets playing better and all. But the Yankees, letting Gleyber walk was not a good idea for them. And then the Rays closing up, which Rays, come on, they're always so low in the salary cap. Like they don't have a salary cap. I'm sorry. And the salary, like, they're one of the lowest teams. They are one of the lowest teams in all of baseball. You look at it, and they're always under 100, 200 mil a year. And let's look it up right now. The Rays currently sit at, they're 27th. 27th in the league in total payroll. They're paying $88 million. $88 million. That's the level of, I don't know how to explain it. It's probably coaching, it's front office, it's them investing in the players, not really paying them, really getting them at the right times and all, really getting the best out of those players, and then when those players are making enough, you walk. They are a low market team, so I can understand that. But now let's get into that disappointing year for the Red Sox. The Red Sox came in, I picked them to be the winners of the AL, the East, with above the Yankees, and then I also had the Orioles being a good year, but Orioles currently aren't having a good year at all either. But when you look at it, let's break it down. The Red Sox made many additions. They got Gary Crochet, signed him. Got Walker Buehler, signed him. Bregman, signed him. So you had all these good additions, right? And then they also had guys who, Tristan Casas, who was established himself as a really good first baseman. You had guys who made a name for themselves. That Red Sox, you had, Gary Crochet, that signing was good, one of the top pitchers in the league. You had Trevor Story, you had Rafael Devers, you had all these guys, And this is where I think it all went to crap. When it became public that Rafael Devers wasn't going to want to play first base and play all these different positions, obviously there is some accountability he has to take for voicing that unwillingness to play. But whenever I see organizations and players fighting publicly, and I mean by not public, I don't mean like they're in each other's face fighting. No, I meant whenever one guy's saying, "Oh, he's not going to play," and then the other guy's like, "Oh, I'm not going to play," and 2 different days on a different camera. That's when I really think the connection between those teams just really drifts apart. You look at it, the exposure to the public that these conversations between the players and the front office regarding negotiations has led to many conflicts. You look at it, Jeter mentioned on a podcast where he was only a free agent once. They wanted him to test the market. He said, "I don't want to play anywhere else. I want to play here." He asked for 3 conditions. He said, "Treat me right and don't make it public." I think it was just 2. It was just 2. He said, "Treat me right, treat me fairly, don't make it public." They made it public, and he talks about how it was the front office, and he was left really unhappy with that and all that. So that's kind of stuff that goes down. And you look at other sports too, where those contract negotiations are made public. The Pete Alonso situation with the Mets, which was a crazy one, where you had guys who were saying, "Oh, he's asking for this, asking for that," where you don't really talk about that. That's that guy's money. That's what that guy is playing for. That's what he thinks he earns, and you're out here dishing it publicly. Which I get it from an organizational standpoint, a business standpoint. You kind of want to make it known. You want to defend yourself. But from a player's perspective, you don't want that to be public. You're like, you know what? These are talks that we're having in private for a reason. That's why they're in private. If not, we could have a conversation in front of a camera. No issues. But that's what led, and then them trading him was another story. They paid him $313 million for 10 years. They got back 2 prospects and 2 big leaguers, in which this case, they already sent one down. You cannot avoid the comparison to the Mookie Betts trade. You can't compare it. You can't avoid it. It's the same thing. I think this might be even worse because you just paid the guy. With Mookie Betts, you hadn't paid him yet. His contract was ending. You paid this guy 10 years, $300 million. And I do see some people's opinions about, oh, they're just clearing up. They don't want to pay the guy. Well, yeah, that's cool, you know. But you lost the guy to the Giants, he's a stud. He's one of the best hitters in baseball, and you're letting him go because he didn't want to play first base. And then obviously him going to the Giants, and then him saying, "I want to play. I'll play wherever they need me to play to win." Doesn't really look right either. That's just 2 different parties not agreeing on each other, and I think there was bigger conflict than that. But we'll leave that for another day as more information comes out. But disappointing year for the Red Sox. I mean, and then going to the National League, Dodgers, despite injuries, have just been tearing up baseball. I mean, they're number 1 in the league. Just so I can make you guys understand how impressive this is, they have a full rotation on the IL. They have Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, Roki Sasaki, River Ryan, Gavin Stone. The reason these team is really starting to tear up baseball and really starting to grow and be dominant is not only because of that lineup hasn't really been through that many injuries, but the lineup's really been producing. They've been putting runs on the board, but players have been coming back just in time. And when players go down, more are going to go down, and this is why. The minute a lot of your starting pitchers are going down is the minute who has to pick up the load. It's not going to be the lineup. They're always going to try to score 10 runs in a game if they can. You know, they're never going to be like, you know, we're going to take 2 runs today. Our pitcher's not working, we're going to go 10 runs. No, it's always the same mentality that scores as many runs as we can. But the pitchers, it's, okay, I have to put in my bullpen for 8 innings. Opposed to, you know what, starter goes 6 innings, I put him in for 3, we're good. No, now you got to go a whole game. Now they're having so many bullpen games that these bullpen guys are carrying a heavier load. They're pitching in 4 days straight. They're pitching multiple innings per games where they're not used to. Their body's not accustomed to this. And that's what leads to more injuries. That's what leads to the staff just overall being criticized. I've seen a lot of staff of that, a lot of their staff being criticized because of the amount of injuries that's been going on with the Dodgers. But at the end of the day, you can't help it because if these starting pitchers are going down, these bullpen guys have to pick up the load. And guys came back from injury have really saved them. Like Clayton Kershaw coming back. He's been dominant since he returned. Emmett Sheehan has been sent down, but he had that one impressive start, and then And down in the AAA, he had 6 innings, no hits, 13 strikeouts. You had Kirby Yates, who came back, who's been throwing the ball pretty well. Robleski, who's absolutely dominating in the league right now. He's really established himself in that rotation where I feel like you can't really move him. And then Michael Kopech, although he just did get announced that he was going to go on the IL yesterday, but he came back and he was really throwing the ball really well. So you had these guys who came back and really provide us a foundation, more or less, for the team and some security and stability to that rotation and the bullpen, and also gave Roberts more to work with. Whereas a coach, it's kind of hard to try to manage a game like that where you have, okay, I'm expecting 3 innings that I might start today. And it's unfortunate. And then you had Yamamoto, who doesn't really get run support, but I mean, he's been lights out. Sasaki going down was a really big blow. But Yamamoto, Kershaw, Robleski have been throwing the ball well, and that's pretty much been their 3. Oh, and then you have Dustin May. Dustin May's been throwing the ball decently. I believe his ERA is around 4, but throws the ball well, gets out, goes deep into games. So I'm a big fan of Dustin May. I really trust the guy in a rotation in a playoff game. But like any team, the Dodgers do have their weaknesses, and I do believe that their main weakness is certain decisions that are being made in the not in the front office, within the organization. Conforto's playing time needs to be limited. Going forward, it needs to be limited. You cannot have this man playing every day. He has the lowest batting average in baseball among qualifying hitters for weeks now. It's not just this week. Oh, he became for weeks now. He's been hitting 176. He did have a good game the other day, but you can't afford this inconsistency especially when you're going to playoffs and gearing up. You have a guy like Hyesung Kim, pardon me if I misspoke his name or I mispronounced it. But he needs to play more. You got a guy who's fast. You got a guy who's offered a great glove, great contact. And on the bases, he's an issue. He could run and he could steal bases. He's a good, smart base runner. And he's way younger. You have a lot. You want to give him that experience, you know? And it's not necessarily throwing him in the fire because of how much talent you have around him. Where he won't feel like, okay, you know what, I have to carry a load. You don't, because you have Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Will Smith, Max Muncy. You have Yandy Pages. All these guys who are really well and already established contributors to the lineup. So you don't feel like that there's not so much a pressure. Sure, there still might be a pressure that comes with it because of expectations. There's a standard you have to play at. But the fact that there's everybody else is there playing, and then you guys are winning ball games, you won't feel the pressure and all that. And then Michael Conforto just hasn't produced. He hasn't contributed to the lineup. Always batting 9th, strikeout. He's just not well. I did want to cover a little bit about the Dodgers and the Padres series that got hated in LA. I'm a Dodger fan. That's not a secret. But in the series in LA, I believe, as well as San Diego the day before, a hit batsman. You had plenty of verbal exchanges between the players, and you had 2 bench clear incidents. You had one on the Andy Pages when he got hit, and then you had the Fernando Tatis little scuffle. I think this is good for baseball. That's just me, though. I think this is great for baseball. I think baseball needs this. All sports that are really suffering to get views need a kind of adversaries-like type game where you have one team where they're trying to get the other guy, and the other teams are like, you know what, like, we beat you guys, and then we're seen as playing with class and all, and then the Dodgers, who are always seen as a classy organization within the players, and then they have the fan base, who's probably the best fan base in baseball, travels the best, everything, right? But I've been hearing a lot of different opinions on this, and the majority of them are from Dodger fans. So this is where I kind of got to check my fellow fans, my fellow Dodger fans. Like, I don't want to seem like I'm playing the devil's advocate, but you have to look at it from 3 different perspectives. There's a Dodger fans perspective, the Padres perspective, and then the baseball enthusiast perspective when it comes down to the situation. You cannot blame the Padres for hitting Ohtani in that situation. And I know it, and I get it. I've heard, how dare you think that it's right to hit Ohtani? He's the humblest player in the league, this and this. That's cool, But I've been baseball my whole life. I'm not claiming to be a professional baseball player. I'm not claiming to be the smartest guy in the world when it comes down to baseball, but I have played it for many years in my life, so I do understand some of these unwritten rules and some of these ways to kind of get back in the game. But Tatis got hit 3 times, okay? You hit Ohtani once in the 100 miles an hour. Mind you, if you keep letting your guy get hit as a Padres guy, what are the players gonna think of that organization? What are they gonna think about their coach? This guy doesn't know we're back. We're getting hit 24/7 against these guys, and we're not retaliating. Sure, it may not have been on purpose, but it's still a way to let the other team know, hey, we're not taking we're not gonna take no crap from you guys, right? And the whole idea of, oh, Totani, he's making this much money, he's the calmest guy in the world. I don't care. Tatis is my top paid guy, and you're hitting him 3 times in a series. You think I'm not gonna hit your top guy? I don't care how wide or how big that gap is in money. Our top guy is gonna take your top guy automatically out. Similar to the Red Sox and the Yankees back in the early 2000s, late 90s, where Pedro Martinez would hit Jeter, and his ideology was, if you hit my guy, I'm gonna hit your guy. And even if it wasn't even the Red Sox best guy, I mean, if you watch a documentary called The Comeback 2003, when it was the Red Sox and the Yankees, you look at it and you go, Kevin Millar got hit. And Pedro Martinez said, who do you want? He took out Soriano and he took out Jeter. That's how this game is kind of played on from the older times of baseball and the darker side. But that's really not really known. And then you had guys in the Cardinals who were getting upset with the Cubs. You had all these different types of retaliatory reactions. And it was clear what the motive was, which was, don't hit my guy. That's the whole thing about this Padres thing. And that's why you have to kind of understand that part of the game, where you can't just go up there and say, oh, he hit Ohtani, he's the nicest guy. No, if you take my best player out, I'm going to take your best player out. I don't care who it is. Don't hit my guy. That puts pressure on their team as much as you want to say. If you're the Dodgers, I don't want to hit this guy because they're going to go after Ohtani. That's literally the mentality. I think the best series, if you're going to show a baseball guy who wants to get into baseball, a series, look at that series in San Diego that's going to come up in July or August. Look up that series in San Diego with the Dodgers. That series is going to be electric and potentially chaotic. It's going to have everything in it. You're going to have tempers flaring. You're going to have exchanges. You're going to have homers. You're going to have saves. You're going to have pitching duels. You're going to have everything. These two organizations always go at it. I mean, they're cinema. They're Hollywood, you know? And they're in San Diego and Los Angeles, two of the best cities in the world. So that's it. That's it for now on that topic. But, I mean, I'm excited. I'll tell you that right now. I'm definitely excited for that, as well as Kershaw throws today. 3 strikeouts away. I'm thinking of going, but I don't know yet. But yeah, three strikeouts away from hitting 3,000. He's going to be the 5th youngest player to ever do that, behind, I believe, Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez. Was it Craig Maddox that I saw? I don't know if it was Craig Maddox. There was 2 other ones that I forgot, but I saw earlier. But moving on from baseball, let's get into some boxing, right? I want to go over some boxing, really take a look in on what's going on in the boxing world. And recently was Chavez and Jake Paul fight. We'll talk about the 2 fights before. I want to talk about Floyd Sheffield and Tevin Farmer, which was just a freaking whooping. I mean, TKO'd him in round 1. I mean, Floyd impressed the whole boxing world on Saturday night. He is on a collision course with any of the champions of the lightweight division. He's 22 years old. I would love to see him fight the winner of Shakur Cepeda, or even possibly giving him a fight with Rey Muratalla. Because Rey Muratalla is a bad man. That guy wants all top fighters. Give him Floyd. Let those 2 go at it. They're both young fighters. Their career's not going to end right there. You let those go at it. Both good experience for both those guys. Guess what? Next guy fights winner of that. Fights Shakur Cepeda for unification belt, and then the Ring Magazine and all that. That's the way I would see it. I would promote Floyd Sheffield, especially he didn't get hurt in this Farmer fight. He didn't get tagged at all. He just literally knocked him out, right? But that lightweight division is going to be really, really interesting. Then I saw the Zurdo and Dorquitos fight, and Dorticos fight. I'm sorry, he won by unanimous decision with Zurdo, and it's since that loss to Dimitri Bivol, he's developed into a different fighter. I mean, he's 34 years old, but his prime is still present. His prime is still very well now, which is he's a volume puncher. And he loves to get in the firefight. He loves to get on the inside who could fight. He loves going behind his jab. Defensively, he's not maybe the most sound fighter, but he does have a really good guard. And I don't want to hear the potential Jake Paul fight talk. I don't want to hear it. Zurdo and Jay needs to happen for the Ring Magazine IBF champ. He's a champ holder. That unification bout needs to happen for the IBF, the WBA, and the Ring Magazine title. That's the fight to make at cruiserweight, is those 2 guys. Let Jake Paul fight Badou Jack for the WBC. Let Jake Paul fight whoever he wants to fight. I mean, that guy's ranked 14th in organization, which makes no sense. How could you beat a guy who's a 160-pounder in his whole career, Chavez? How are you going to give Jake Paul the fight if Jake Paul fight a guy in Chavez who's a middleweight at 160, and then he was champion at 160, and then 4 years he's no boxing, and then fighting MMA guys, and then because you beat a guy like that, you're ranked. Travis never once had a professional fight at cruiserweight, or a fight that mattered in the rankings on the cruiserweight. So why would he even? It's all politics, man. They all care about money, which is unfortunate. That's why I believe a lot of these sports are really dying, because it's so much politics, so much money. They really care about the money over the fans, which fans are the ones that bring the money. Anyways, but I did kind of want to touch on the Canelo and Crawford build-up, which is, it's going great. Realistically, if you're realistically speaking, this promotion is doing pretty good. I think it's picking up a lot of steam. The promotional press conferences that are going on, the face-off have been great for the business. The fight is being viewed as a 50-50 fight because of the skill that Crawford possesses. I don't really think it's a 50-50 fight. I think more of it is like a 70-30, 65-35 for Canelo, because Canelo, people are almost dismissing the skill that this guy has. They're literally saying, oh, he's just a bigger fighter, that's why he has a chance. And Crawford's so much better, so much more skilled. Which, yeah, Crawford may be more skilled from a technical perspective, from a technical standpoint. But you look at Canelo, who has one of the best head movements in boxing, best defense, best guard in boxing, but arguably the best body work in boxing, and his experience is better than anybody in the boxing right now. He's beating all the guys that he's been in multiple Hall of Famers. In Cotto, he's beating Cotto, Shane Mosley. He's beating James Kirkland, who even said he's the hardest guy he's ever hit. He's beating Triple G twice. He's beating Caleb Plant. He's beating Berlanga, Munguia. He's beating Trout. He's beating Alexander Lara. He's beating all these guys at those weight classes, in those smaller weight classes, and you expect those guys to come up and give him a challenge? Realistic, if he takes it serious, I wouldn't be surprised if he knocks him out within 10 rounds. Crawford, who knows how he takes the punches? He's been hurt at 135, so how would he not get hurt at 168? Although he is gonna blow it up, and he is a big guy. Both those guys, Canelo isn't crazy bigger than Crawford. He's only 5'8", whatever, but he is obviously a thicker guy, much more muscular, much more denser, I would say, than Crawford. But looking at it from an enthusiast perspective and a facade, you're kind of thinking, okay, what's Crawford's way? He has to outbox him. He's not gonna knock out Canelo. You're gonna have to outbox him. Going up 14 pounds, can he sustain that for 12 rounds? That pace, because Crawford's ability to switch is what gives him that creativity and that elusiveness against these fighters. That pocket presence where other fighters are thinking he's a southpaw and then he's an orthodox and just cracks you. That's what makes him special. But you're going against a guy Canelo who's fought Daniel Jacobs, who could switch. I'm not saying he's as good as Crawford, but I'm saying he could switch. Did pretty fairly well with him. He's fought power punchers like Golovkin. He's fought volume punchers when he fought Amir Khan. He's fought great boxers, great distance boxer in Lara. He's fought Caleb Plant. Big guys in Berlanga, who was 210 of the fight. He's a linebacker. Fought guys who have to come forward in Munguia. He's fought all these different styles. Cotto, who was a guy behind his jab half the time, moving backwards behind his jab, right hand combinations, upstairs, downstairs. So there's nothing you can throw at Canelo that he hasn't seen. That's the thing that people are really not seeing, is the fact that he's fought everybody, he's seen every style, and he's skilled. He's not a slouch. He's skilled. He can move. He can head. He can move ahead. He has a good guard. He hits really hard. His combinations are long and lengthy. His body work is crazy. His creativity, his ability to make you think it's something else that's coming. His illusion. He's an illusion. His downstairs, upstairs is ridiculous. He knows how to go downstairs and upstairs without even knowing what's going to happen. And I've noticed this during his fights that it blows my mind. When guys throw to the body, he's always moving his hands. He's parrying a lot, right? Usually, those guys get caught. I've rarely seen Canelo get caught because he dropped his hand and he got hit. Like his ability to react is ridiculous. His ability to pick up punches is off the charts. I do think early in the fight, Crawford's gonna sting him a couple times because of the quickness that he's gonna have, the speed he's gonna have over Canelo. But obviously, Canelo over time is gonna catch him, in my opinion. But that's for September. Another fight that got announced was Haney Norman. For those of you that don't know about Brian Norman Jr., that guy is an animal. That guy is an animal at 147. WBA champ, coming off knockout of the year you have to think, you have to have big balls to fight a guy like that, right? And when you think he made a term, not a term, he came out and really said that nobody was gonna fight him. He's not a well-known fighter, and why would people fight him? And why would Haney fight him, right? And you look at it, and you look at that for Haney, and you go, okay, Haney, you're a big star in boxing. You're a really good fighter. Why fight a guy like Norman who doesn't have a name, really dangerous, cracks, and is super explosive? And I think Haney is just saying it because I want the best fight. That's a great fight. I'm favoring Haney to win. And Norman's legit. A lot of people would pick Norman, and I wouldn't even be able to blame you if you pick Norman. Norman can crack. Norman even gave kudos to Haney for saying he's not a duck. He's fighting me. Why would he fight me? I'm coming off knockout of the year. I have all the momentum. I just came off impressive performances. Why would he fight me? I'm in the prime, And that just shows that Haney's really about what he says. Now, what makes Haney so hated is his fighting style and his ability to talk all this game, and then he walks backwards in the fight. If he could fight like Progress, the way he fought Progress, that guy would be a star. I mean, he was cracking Progress left and right. I think he has the best job in boxing. His combinations are quick. His footwork is great. His reaction time is amazing. His instincts are top notch. He's a high level fighter. He's really a high level fighter. That fight's gonna be interesting. You have to think about it. He's fought everybody at lightweight. He's fought Loma and Cambosis at 140. He's fought Progress and Ryan Garcia, and now Norman at 147. So that's it. And for those of you that don't know who Norman is, just watch that fight against Giovanni Santillan. I'm gonna tell you right now. Just watch the fight with Norman Jr. versus Giovanni Santillan. Just watch that fight. You'll see who he is. But now I want to stay in the combat sports area, but I want to go into the UFC, and I have a couple controversial takes on this, But let's dive into some UFC 317, which was a banger card that happened over the weekend. And I want to talk about specific 3 fights that happened. Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval, Pantoja versus Kai Kara-France, and then Ilya Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. That Joshua Van fight was fight of the night, in my opinion. Joshua Van won by unanimous decision, 29-28, 29-28, 30-27. This fight was the definition of volume versus power. Van was landing the much more damaging shots, even though Royval was pushing the pace, landing more volume punches. He did land more punches at the end of the fight when it came down to the punch tag. But Van seemingly loved to be in those close exchanges. His power, his ability, whenever Royval would throw, Van would throw right after him. And that's great. I mean, that thing's balls, because what if Royval tags you? You're going to open up when he's mid-combination. And the one thing I will say Royval did need to do better was he didn't really mix up the martial arts. He should have wrestled a little bit better, especially Van, who's not known for his wrestling, majority for his striking. And the kicks. Royval is a big kicker. He didn't really kick. He was just pushing the pace, throwing punches. And that's Van. Van's a boxer. That guy who knows how to fight. He's 23 years old. And he's a high-level fighter. His brother started fighting at like 17 years old. And he's beating these top-level guys Van was ranked 12, Royval was ranked number 1. You get me? That's what shows how good Van is, and you fought his type of game. If you're ranked number 1, I don't give a damn who you are. You're fighting my game. I'm number 1 for a reason, right? That's the way I would go into one. And I mean, Royval put on a show and earned his money. Fighting 12-50 contender, like I mentioned earlier, at number 1 is extremely risky. There's really no reward in that. Royval, I don't know where he goes from here. That loss, I do think, is pretty big in his career, especially because he lost to the number 12 ranked guy. There is still fights out there for him, like another fight with Brandon Moreno, possibly a fight with Kai Kara-France in the future for him, because Kai Kara-France is coming off that title loss that we're going to get into a little bit later. But I mean, Van getting a title shot against Pantoja, age 28. I do see Pantoja steamrolling him, to be honest. I do see him getting to his back and choking him out. But I mean, great experience for a guy that's 23 years old, And that leads me to the co-main event, which is in the same weight class, flyweight. Pantoja versus Kai Kara-France was bad. I mean, you look at it. I knew that there was 2 possibilities. Either Kai Kara-France knocks him out or Pantoja subs him. It was just the fact that I think Kai Kara France is wrestling is not at the level of Pantoja's striking, if that makes sense. I know it's like, well, you're talking about two different disciplines, but Pantoja's wrestling versus striking ratio, he's a complete fighter, where Kai Kara France does lack in that wrestling department. And Pantoja's, I mean, a grappler of one of a kind. That got top 5 pound for pound in my opinion. But Pantoja just walks everybody down and then drowns them, gets to him, gets the bag, chokes him out. And that was the big question going into the fight. But obviously he took him down in the first round, controlled him. Second round came around, choked him out. That was it. Kai Kara France really didn't stand a chance. And then Pantoja, I would like to see him fight Joshua Van, obviously coming off that performance, or I would like to see him fight Merab. I mean, that Merab fight would be crazy at bantamweight. Merab's bigger and a much better wrestler, so it would be a tough matchup for Pantoja, but I think he deserves it. He's already defended about 4 times. He beat Brandon Moreno for it. He beat Brandon Royval. He beat Kai Kara France. He beat that one guy that came over from that different promotion. And I believe he beat Moreno again for it. Or did he defend the bout against somebody else? I can't remember, but he defended the bout more than 3 times. I let him go up, especially if you've been that high up. Pound for pound list right now, I would have it Islam 1, Topuria 2, 3 Merab, and then after that I wouldn't be upset if you had him at 4. Although I would say 4, you have a strong case for DDP. You have a strong case for... What would be a strong case? 4. You have... Tom Aspinall wouldn't be up there yet. Like Ankalaev isn't 4. Welterweight is GDM. He's not 4. So I think the perfect place for him would be at 4. And then going into the main event, which is Charles Oliveira versus Topuria. This fight went exactly the way I thought it was going to go, to be honest. I thought Topuria was going to steamroll him. I thought he was going to knock him out. I didn't think it was going to be that bad, but he would have, yeah. The reason is the styles were just too much in the favor of Topuria. For those that don't know, Topuria's background is in wrestling and learned striking, but he's really high level in striking, which is very shocking. Charles Oliveira's background is in jiu-jitsu, but his striking mixes very well. It's not necessarily such high level, because if you go striking with somebody, he's going to get knocked out most of the time. He always gets dropped. But it's the fact that everybody's scared of his ground game, right? He's lost 3 fights. And I want to see in the span of 3 years. 2 years. They've all became because guys were willing to go to the ground with him. It's Topuria, Arman, and Islam. On all those fights, he's been rocked. And everybody else backs up. And he just kind of stays there. They don't want to engage. All right, cool, I'm going to get back up and I'm going to start the fight again. But Topuria trains boxing and fights like a boxer. His head movement is ridiculous. His movement is a traditional boxer's movement. Oliveira's striking discipline department was Muay Thai. He's a high-level Muay Thai fighter, according to the stats that I was looking at, and then he's had a couple belts into that. Muay Thai, for those that don't know, it's either really far or you're really close in the clinch. You're really elbowing, knees, or you're in kicking range, or at very, very at the end of your punches. Muay Thai, they don't really fight in the middle, in the mid range, where you could land your hooks, you can land your body punches, and you don't have to fear, and you're in the pocket. That's the definition of a boxer. But Oliveira doesn't really stick to that a lot of times. He just has a high guard and walks forward, doesn't move his head at all. So when you saw in round 1, when you saw Topuria picking his head, jabbing at him, and when you see a guy who's walking and all you see is his head being snapped backwards, and he doesn't decide to move his head, guess what's going to come? That 1-2. That 1-2 is going to come eventually, especially with guys like Topuria who love combinations and throw a combination with terrible intentions. They're super short. They don't load up so much. And Oliveira did get him in the clinch a couple times, but you would see the panic in Topuria just pushed him off him right away. Go on the ground, tried throwing Topuria. Topuria landed on his hips, landed in mount, crucified him right away, put him in a crucifix. They got up, got out, boom, stood up. And then you saw that jab to the body, Oliveira reacted. You saw the ball to the head, reacted. At that point, you're reactive. You know, you're not taking another step. Okay, he's literally jabbing the heck out of me. Back up, move my head. Nope. And then Oliveira tried to exchange. Topuria literally met him with the perfect right hand, similar to like Pacquiao Marquez type of right hand. Put him out. 2 hammer fists that nearly killed the guy. And that was it. I don't know where Charles Oliveira goes from here. That was a tough fight. That was a tough fight to watch, to be honest. His boxing might be the best I've ever seen in the UFC. I don't know who I've seen that has better boxing. Pure boxing, not striking, pure boxing. Him and JDM would be a fun matchup at welterweight, to be honest, though. So I saw Ilya's post-fight interview where Patty entered the ring, which is entertaining, but that's not the fight that needs to happen next, to be honest. Arman needs to fight him. Arman is the number 1 contender. This is the right direction the UFC should go and stick to their brand and stick to their backbone, which has always been give the people the fights they want to see in the top-level fights, which has been the number 1 versus the champion. And recently they went away from that, which was Tom Aspinall and John Jones, and they've received a crazy amount of hate. But Arman is absolutely the fight. And his style is very interesting because the cardio and the wrestling he has in his arsenal. Arman is a very rangy fighter. He loves to throw kicks, very flexible. His mobility is great. And his scramble ability is ridiculous. And he's huge. Arman's huge. So you get a guy like Topuria who's moving up, fighting a big 155er. That's what I wanted to see. Oliveira, you saw the size difference. But Oliveira's a skinny guy compared to looking at him, Arman or Islam, where those guys are built, muscular. The back muscles, you can see them all from a mile away. And there's the other option. But Arman, in my opinion, is the number 1 guy. You have to give it to him. Arman, I do think, has a chance of upsetting Ilya because of his ability to wrestle, but his finishing ability isn't the best. That's more of a 50-50 fight, in my opinion, rather than the Oliveira one again. But then there was the other option that got rumored, which was Gaethje and Ilya. They need to stay away from that fight. I mean, I love Gaethje. I don't want to see this guy get knocked out again. It would be worse than Oliveira, in my opinion. Gaethje moves his head a little more, but his defense is absolutely worse, and his striking is a lot less technical. Gaethje throws a lot of windy punches, whereas Topuria is a very tight, compact guy, and then he moves his head well. Gaethje blasts leg kicks, which is another one where you're like, okay, let's see how the leg kicks will do, but Gaethje's been cracked, been dropped many times. You put Topuria in there, Topuria's probably going to get him out of there in the first round as well. The only way I would want the UFC to go away from Arman is if Islam returned to the lightweight division. I don't want to hear a single thing about, Islam will lose. Islam beats him. Islam beats him hands down. The reason I would say Islam beats Ilya Topuria is because Islam can strike to a certain extent. I'm not saying he's going to go at him and just knock him out. I don't think he'll knock out Ilya Topuria. But Islam's huge, man. Huge compared to Ilya. And his wrestling is off the charts compared to Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira has good jiu-jitsu, but his offensive wrestling against other great offensive or against good defensive wrestlers is almost average. But Islam takes down guys who've been wrestling their whole life like with ease. And then his ability to submit somebody is second to none. I mean, he submitted Renato Moicano, he submitted Dustin Poirier, he submitted Charles Oliveira. He's coming off these big win streaks, knocked out Volkanovski. So Islam might do things another beast. He's still pound for pound for number 1 to me. His wins, technically, I feel, can be more impressive than Topuria because of the win streaks that those fighters were on. Where Charles was on an 11-fight win streak, Volk was on like an 18 or something like that, something crazy. Then he knocked out Volk again. Moicano was on a 4-fight win streak. He fought like all these guys who were on win streaks, right? Opposed to Topuria, where he fought Max on a 3-fight win streak. He fought Charles on a 1-fight win streak. Or did Charles even have a 1-fight? Who did he beat? Yeah, he beat Dariush, but then he lost to Arman. And then Volkanovski, who was he didn't have a win streak either because he got knocked out with a fight before. So he fought guys who had been finished or already been rocked, And Islam kind of fought them when they were the best. Volkanovski was pound for pound number 1 when he fought him the first time. Oliveira was this hungry guy who took the lightweight division by storm, knocking everybody out, knocking Poirier, knocking Gaethje, knocking Chandler out. So he did all that and submitted all everybody, But there's one thing I do want to hear. I don't want to hear the UFC talk or people talking about, especially the media or analysts talking about, oh, the UFC needs a superstar. You have a superstar in Poirier. The issue is you don't promote the damn fighters. You allow these fights. You want a McGregor. There'll never be another McGregor, and I'll explain why. To get another McGregor, you need a certain set of circumstances. You can't expect an Ilia Topuria to be a Conor McGregor when the UFC is already an established brand. You get me? When McGregor came in, McGregor was taking the UFC by storm because of the casual fans that it lacked. Ronda Rousey was really starting to put the UFC on the map and really promoted and did well for the women's fighting. But Conor McGregor came and just transcended the sport. He made it a mixed martial art and transitioned it to a business. He understood the ability of, okay, I can fight and I can predict. I'm really well at these things. How can these things make me money? Right? And what you look at the promotions between Conor McGregor and Jose Aldo, where they're walking in Vegas and they have all the Irish fans behind them, all the Brazilian fans behind them. That was one of the best promotions of all time. And where are these promotions now? You don't get them no more. You get people on TikTok who make better freaking edits than the UFC does. And then you wonder, oh, we need a superstar. No, you don't. You have Alex Pereira. You have a guy like Ilia Topuria. You have a guy Ilia Topuria who dresses like $1 million, who walks like $1 million, who speaks like $1 million freaking dollars, and fights like $5 million. Knocking dudes out who are Hall of Famers. The greatest of their division has ever seen. And they're predicting it like Conor McGregor, but you want him to do everything. No, promote the heck out of him. If him and Paddy fight, I want a press conference in the UK. I want a press conference in the US, and I want one in Spain. That's the definition of promotion. You get those 3 press conferences, I guarantee you're selling a lot of pay-per-views. Why? When Conor McGregor fought Jose Aldo, when the first time it was lined up, they went to Brazil, they had one in the US, they had one in Ireland. Have you guys seen those press conferences? How crazy they got when in Brazil, put his feet up on the desk, had his suit, had those little headphones on, and he says that if this was back then, I would raid a favela on horseback and slaughter everybody, while the whole Brazilian crowd was booing him. That generates views. He went to Dublin. He didn't have to say a single word, and the whole Irish fan literally crushed Aldo. You had guys asking him questions like, "How long is it gonna take you to take your fucking head off him?" You know, like you had guys like that who were actually going out and promoting the guys, promoting the fighters. Now they really lack the promotion. That's what they need. You look at, they know what's promoting Canelo better than he's freaking promoting his own fighters. Canelo's already done 3 press conferences. Where Ilia's done 1. He did 1. You have to let these guys promote themselves. And why? Give them a platform, give them an event, and let them do the rest. Not let him do everything he has to do, especially when these guys are being controlled. You look at the UFC, these guys have sponsorship deals, but they can't wear them on their shorts. You get guys like, and then Tom Aspinall is a different freaking story too. I don't like the UFC did that guy so dirty. The UFC, I don't want to hear John Jones the GOAT. I'm going to go into that in a little bit. I don't want to hear he's the GOAT. I don't want to hear any of that. But they did that guy dirty. He even said it. He's like, I do well outside of fighting. He's like, but I haven't fought in a year. It's my main source of income. Promote the heck out of these guys. Tom Aspinall's a star. For those that are like, he's not that big of a guy. Dude, when John Jones was going to fight Stipe Miocic in the press conference, they asked him. They said, is the winner going to fight Tom Aspinall? And he says the winner should absolutely fight Tom Aspinall verbatim. The crowd went crazy. Look up the video and watch it. You'll see how loud the crowd gets. People want to see Tom Aspinall. He's knocked out 4 of the 5 of the top 10 heavyweights in there under a minute. I mean, like, come on, like, what else do you need from this guy? This guy's promote. Guess what? Put him on a platform. He has the fighting. Put him on a platform. Don't expect these guys to do everything on their own. That's not the way it works. Conor McGregor did that. No one's asking him to do that anymore because while you have the money now to push them, you get me? Just promote the guys. Promote the guys and you'll get superstars. That's the way it works. Ilia is a superstar in the making. Already a superstar. Promote him. They want to do that with Sean O'Malley. Guess what? O'Malley wasn't that guy. You have Topuria, who walks it, talks it, doesn't look like a clown, dresses nice, and knocks people out for fun. Walks out laughing and knocks people out. That's the guy you got to promote. I don't want to hear anything about, oh, there's no superstar. They have a superstar. That's just them. They don't want to damn promote the thing. Now going into Tom Aspinall, I want to talk about John Jones a little bit in his retirement. This guy had a great career, top 5 fighter of all time, maybe. I don't want to hear no GOAT talk. I do not want to hear no GOAT talk. I'll explain who my GOAT is in a little bit, and I'll tell you why. If you failed multiple drug tests for PED, performance enhancing drugs, for those of you that don't know, it makes you better. In a sport where your job is to hurt somebody, how in the hell are you going to be considered the GOAT? Tell me. Who were his top wins against? Daniel Cormier? Oh, busted for steroids. Your best win was against arguably the best light heavyweight of all time, and you got caught using steroids. How are you gonna justify him being the GOAT multiple times? He never fought a young upcoming fighter when he was the older guy. All these guys gave him a chance. Cormier was 38 when he fought Rumble Johnson for the second time, and then he fought John Jones after that. He wasn't even in his physical prime fighting these guys and beating these guys. Daniel Cormier entered the UFC, yes, late. Granted, he wanted to do Olympic wrestling. That's totally up to him. That's not up to anybody else to debate that. But the fact that he was past 35 and beating, he was damn near 40. He was 41 or 42, and he knocked out Stipe in the second round or first round. I mean, he's a 2-time champ, one of the 4 guys to hold the 2 belts simultaneously in 2 different weight classes, and he's the only guy out of those 4 guys. Mind you, there's been, I want to say, 10 double champs. Or champions of multiple divisions. You had, let me see if I can name everybody. BJ Penn, GSP, John Jones, Daniel Cormier, Amanda Nunes, Henry Cejudo. You had Ilya Taporia. You have, I don't know if I named GSP already. Jose Aldo, I believe, was another one who was at bantamweight and featherweight. There has to be somebody else. Randy Couture, I think, did it. Anyways, you have all these guys. 4 of them are the only ones. Conor McGregor, who's the only ones who have held the belt simultaneously, which is McGregor, Amanda Nunes, Henry Cejudo, Daniel Cormier. One of them, only one, out of all the fighters in the world, only one guy has ever defended both those belts while holding them simultaneously. He went down light heavyweight, whooped fighters. Went up to heavyweight, whooped Derek Lewis. And he knocked out Stipe, for God's sake. I mean, how can you even debate that John Jones is a better fighter than him? He beat him because he was on steroids. And then all of John Jones' best wins, Cormier steamrolled everybody. I mean, like I already mentioned, his resume, Daniel Cormier's resume is not a slouch either. He's fought everybody. He's fought the top guys in the world. He has 3 losses. 1 of them to a drug cheat, 2 to the freaking heavyweight GOAT. He's beat Derek Lewis, a heavyweight. Stipe Miocic, a heavyweight. He fought Volkan Ozdemir at light heavyweight. John Jones, no contest. He beat Anthony Johnson. He beat Anderson Silva. He beat Gustafsson. He beat Anthony Johnson again. He beat Dan Henderson. He beat Roy Nelson. And he beat Frank Mir. These are all guys that are Hall of Famers. Let's name Hall of Famers on his resume that he fought, not win. He's only lost 3 times, but let's name him. John Jones fought him twice. Two fights against a Hall of Famer. Fought Stipe 3 times. That's 5 fights against a Hall of Famer. You fought Derek Lewis, not a Hall of Famer. Oldemir, not a Hall of Famer yet. Anthony Johnson, maybe Hall of Famer. Anderson Silva, Hall of Famer at 6. Gustafsson's, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer yet. And maybe Frank Mir, I don't think so. That's 6 fights against Hall of Famers. 6. And he's beating everybody else brutally. I mean, how can you debate it? I would understand if you would say Mighty Mouse because he's beating everybody at flyweight, cleared the division out, and he was just arguably the most technical fighter of all time. But Daniel Cormier, to me, is undeniably the GOAT. Like you can't tell me another guy who, when Daniel Cormier, just for an example, came out of one of his fights, I can't remember one of his fights. I think it was against Stipe Miocic the first time. When he came out, Joe Rogan says this guy would be the best fighter of all time debated if it wasn't for John Jones beating him. How are you going to say that when John Jones was cheating when he beat him? So what does that mean? That means you were the guy who fought these guys when they were on steroids, and you fought and you beat a lot of these guys too. I don't want to hear, oh, everybody was on steroids. No. I don't want to hear that. Daniel Cormier didn't get caught. If you didn't get caught, I can't accuse you of doing it. Whether you look like it or not, If you didn't get caught, you shouldn't be in trouble. You shouldn't be the one that has to get in trouble, you know, and face the consequences, right? So that's what really pisses me off, especially with the whole John Jones retirement, where the UFC bugged him. No, they didn't. The UFC, you want to retire, let him retire, and you give Tom Aspinall the belt. You let this man build his resume, because at the end of the day, Tom Aspinall's been on the shelf for a year now, where, we're lacking a superstar. The UFC's lacking a... Well, you goddamn it, you have a freaking interim heavyweight who's knocking everybody out and is on the shelf for half the year, for a year. Because the main champion doesn't want to fight him. He wants to fight a guy who's 43 and hasn't fought in 4 years. How the heck are you going to build superstars? That's the UFC's fault. That's not anybody else's fault. That's the UFC for not promoting these guys and for not doing what's right, which is, you know what? You're the champion. You're going to fight the interim. How the hell does the interim have the same amount of title defenses as a heavyweight? The heavyweight champion, you know? How does it do that? It makes no sense to me. But, well, that's topic for another time. I'm sure I get a little emotional about that, but it's whatever. But, I mean, that's a good way to end the podcast, I think, you know? Little heated conversation, you know, but it's for up to debate, which that's the point of this whole podcast. I want to hear your guys' opinion. But other than that, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I believe this is episode 10. Thank you guys so much. Peace and love. I'll see you guys in the next one. God bless.